7 best scenes from terrible blockbusters that deserve respect. Big budget, big stars, and big disappointments. We've seen movies that got our hopes up but left us regretting going to the cinema. Today, we'll be looking at 7 of them. But here's the catch. Each one of them hides a single moment so good, you might just forgive everything else. Here are 7 best scenes from terrible blockbusters that still deserve your respect. Chapter 7, Suicide Squad. Let's kick things off with a movie that everyone had high hopes for, but ended up being a disappointment. I'm talking about Suicide Squad. It was a complete train wreck with a confusing plot and some truly awful character decisions. However, there's one sequence that is pure, undiluted fun, and it's the only reason anyone probably still talks about this movie. I'm talking about the introduction of Harley Quinn. We're shown a quick, stylized montage of her origin, her relationship with the Joker, and her descent into madness. It's colorful, creative, and it perfectly captures the manic, anarchic energy of the character. Margot Robbie's performance here is absolutely spot on, nailing the humor, the charisma, and the utter insanity that makes the character so beloved. This scene single-handedly saved Suicide Squad from being a complete disaster. It's a 2-minute sequence that had more style, wit, and character development than the rest of the movie combined. A perfect example of a filmmaker getting the one moment that really matters absolutely right. In a movie where the villain's motivations are completely nonsensical and the team has no real chemistry, this one sequence makes you think it's a completely different, much better film. And honestly, I think it's the only part that feels like it's from a movie that actually knows what it's doing. Chapter 6, G.I. Joe Retaliation. Coming in at number 6 on our list may be hard for some viewers to handle, but the G.I. Joe movies were not exactly known for their stellar writing. The sequel, G.I. Joe Retaliation, was no exception. It was a movie that struggled with a predictable plot and a generic tone, but it's a crime how well one particular scene works. The Ninja Mountain fight is a truly breathtaking and creative piece of action filmmaking that stands as the high point of the entire franchise. What's so brilliant about it is how it uses the environment as a central part of the fight. The sheer face of that cliffside becomes a lethal, ever-changing battlefield. The choreography is great too, giving us a symphony of motion where every swing of a sword feels deadly. It completely transcends the forgettable movie it's in, proving that with a little ambition and a lot of imagination, even a bad film can deliver something unforgettable.
We also ranked ultimate one-man armies. Can anyone beat John Wick? Let's find out.
Chapter 5, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Next up, we have a movie that promised an epic battle and almost delivered. When you hear that Guy Ritchie is directing a King Arthur movie, you expect a certain kind of frantic energy and quick cuts. But even for him, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword was a lot. The movie has an awful and often confusing fever dream of an epic that collapses under its own weight. The narrative jumps around so much and the CGI becomes so overwhelming that it's easy to get lost. But man, the beginning of this movie, the beginning is a whole other story. The very first scene throws you right into a massive city-destroying battle featuring an army of giants. It's a completely over-the-top and awesome spectacle that sets to a killer soundtrack. The opening sequence is undeniable when it comes to blockbuster filmmaker that's so good. It makes you walk into the movie thinking you're about to watch an epic. The use of slow motion, the quick zooms, and the sheer scale of the battle all create a unique blend of historical fantasy and modern action filmmaking. Too bad the rest of the movie couldn't live up to the promise of its first 5 minutes and ending up as a box office flop. Chapter 4, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Our next film shifts to a different kind of promised epic, one that delivered a great hero in just one scene. Remember when the world was split on whether Ben Affleck could even play Batman? Well, Batman vs. Superman didn't do a lot to help, with its complex plot and a certain infamous Martha scene. But if there's one moment in this film that silences all the haters, it's the warehouse fight. For decades, we've seen countless versions of the Caped Crusader on screen, but we've never seen him fight quite like this. The action here is brutal, kinetic, and non-stop. It's an assault that feels like it's been ripped straight out of the Arkham video games. Batman isn't just punching bad guys. He's using every tool and every ounce of his power to dispatch a huge group of thugs in the most efficient way possible. The choreography is an absolute work of art with a sense of flow and aggression that feels earned. The way he uses his grapple gun and batarangs to take out his enemies all in one fluid sequence is a sight to behold. This scene is what every fan of The Dark Knight had been waiting for and is much better compared to the fight against Superman, which seemed oddly biased. It validated Ben Affleck's casting for many and proved that even a movie with a flawed script could deliver on its core promise of a darker, more experienced Batman. Hey, while we're talking about iconic duels, I want to hear from you. What's the most iconic movie duel of all time in your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Chapter 3, Sucker Punch. Speaking of iconic duels, our next movie is one that's often misunderstood, with a wildly confusing plot and some heavy criticism. I'm talking about Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch. The movie sucks for many reasons, including its lack of character depth and how they do not really engage with the viewers on an emotional state. Critics say the movie does not cohere as a fully satisfying movie and is a complete failure, especially with Snyder's filmmaking reputation. However, beyond the abusively overreaching plot and exhaustive character depth, the movie really does pack a punch. Yeah, there are a lot of good fight scenes and visuals that give this film a sense of hope despite its harsh narrative. The best of these has to be the samurai robot battle in a snow-covered temple. This isn't just a fight scene, it's a stunning work of visual art. The hyper-stylized action, the slow motion, and the beautiful cinematography come together to create a ballet of beautiful, creative violence. It perfectly encapsulates Zack Snyder's unique visual style, which is either loved or hated, but you can't deny the sheer artistry on display here. The fight is impeccably choreographed, blending martial arts with a unique fantasy aesthetic that feels both futuristic and ancient. The way the scene uses a limited color palette of whites and reds makes it visually striking, and the sense of scale is epic. It's an example of a movie that, even with its many flaws, gives you a scene that is so memorable that it almost makes the rest of the film worth sitting through. It's no wonder this film has a bit of a cult following because these action sequences are truly one of a kind. Chapter 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Our number 2 pick may be unexpected, but The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a prime example of a movie that tries to do too much. It's overstuffed with villains and a plot that just never finds its footing. The movie's central flaw is trying to introduce too many storylines and characters all at once, leading to a narrative that feels disjointed and rushed. Now, let's get to the good part. There's one scene from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 that proves that filmmakers deserve some respect. I'm talking about the final battle with Electro in Times Square. This sequence is a feast for the eyes and the ears. The visual effects are top-notch with the crackling electricity and Spider-Man's acrobatics creating a dynamic and visually spectacular fight. And the sound design is also fantastic, with every surge of electricity feeling like a true terrifying force of nature. It is a perfect mix of physical action and strategic thinking, with Spider-Man having to use his intellect to outsmart Electro, who appears to be far more powerful than he is. It's a wonderfully orchestrated sequence that makes you feel the sheer power and danger of the villain while also showing off Spider-Man's speed and creativity. It's a high-energy spectacle that delivers on the promise of a big-budget superhero film that stands out as the one moment where the movie truly shines.
Support the channel by liking and subscribing. It helps more than you think.
Chapter 1, Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Speaking of visual spectacles, our final pick is a grand turning point to what was already a powerful story between man and machine, or machine-alien if you prefer it that way. Transformers: Dark of the Moon was a financial success, but it was also a critical punching bag. Critics often complained about the tiring script, boring human characters, and the extremely long and sometimes confusing plot. But if you can sit through the melodrama, this movie delivers an epic and intense action sequence. I'm talking about the final battle in Chicago, which starts with a jaw-dropping bridge and highway scene. The Autobots return to a city under siege and engage the Decepticons in a battle for total control. The fight is simple: regain the city or be taken over by Megatron and his new partner Sentinel Prime, who was apparently Optimus's teacher. The battle on the bridge between Optimus and Sentinel is fun to see. It creates a sort of die-hard moment for Prime, where he has no way of winning, yet still chooses to fight. The ending, though, with Megatron getting involved sort of dropped the vibe, but it's still the best part from all the chaos and extremely long filming. Regardless of the tiring story in Transformers: Dark of the Moon, the visual effects are exceptional, showing an entire highway collapsing in on itself while giant robots fight in mid-air. The sound design, the practical explosions, and the sheer audacity of the stunts make this sequence a truly unforgettable spectacle that is worth the price of admission all on its own. So there you have it, 7 blockbuster blunders fighting scenes worthy of a standing ovation. But just in case you think there's one better than the ones on our list, don't hesitate to drop it in the comments. Next, we're flipping the script with 9 modern action movies that will go down as all-time classics. Don't go anywhere.